Hey, it's Chris from Hale Guitar Studio, welcome. Today we've got a pair of Jacksons. These Adrian Smith signature guitars, Adrian Smith obviously of Iron Maiden fame, effectively the same guitar, but this is the X version, the Indonesian built version, valued at about £500. And the next one we're going to look at is a USA version, valued at about £2,500. So big difference in price, but is there a difference in the actual guitars? Well, we're going to be taking the pickguard off because we're going to change this humbucker on both of them at the bridge for a Seymour Duncan SH4. So we'll look inside and see what the differences are there. We're going to be taking the Floyds off, so we'll see if there's a difference between the two Floyd Rose bridges. And just have a look over the overall guitar as we set it up and see what they're like, see what the comparisons are. In the description field, I'll put links to both guitars on the Jackson website, so you can have a look at the specs and see if there's any differences in there, and then you can make your own minds up. Let's get cracking. Right, Adrian Smith, Jackson. We're going to change the pickup. My friend, the client, feels that the humbucker is a bit too hot, so we're going to change it for a Seymour Duncan. We'll have a look at that. But to do that, I'm going to have to take the strings off, and they're feeling a little bit rough, so we're going to change them anyway. So, first thing to do is we're going to release this locking nut, slacken off the trim a bit. I'm going to go over 3mm, and then get the strings off, because the pickguard's got to come off and it's just easier with the strings off. It's nicely recessed. And now it's out. So as you can see, it's got a Floyd Rose special on here, so as I loosen the strings that will start to pull back, and there isn't much of a cavity behind, and I don't want to mark the finish because it's lovely. So I'm going to loosen the claw off a bit, and I'm going to take one of the springs off. See what that's done. It's still pretty level. And then the other. Feel that pull back. There you go, that's much looser. And then we can undo some more tension on the strings. There we go. And then we can just pop you out of the way over there. And we've got nice easy access to the pickguard. Well, it looks like there's loads of depth, but also this pickup is fouling and not pulling through. The pickguard goes under the neck. And the other alternative is going to be completely go the other way and drop the pickup out, which is what I'm going to do. Which might present me with a bit of a problem later, but we'll see. Okay, it's coming now. Oh, you are a pest. Hey, it's gone. Good. And the jack's holding on nice and tight too. So we are going to cover the guitar up. Curtains for you. And do it this way. There we go. Right. this winding. There you go. So where are you going? Right. So we're not push pull or anything. So we're just hop to the end. That's going to be really nice and easy for a Seymour Duncan pickup. Right. What I'm going to do now is just cut that there. Which doesn't really remove any of the length, but shows me where it goes. And I'm going to cut this here because there's almost nothing left of it anyway. And that pickup is now removed. Seymour Duncan SH4 black. Let's get it open. Long springs. Now, long springs are fun because when you get it wrong, they flip across the room. So we'll try not to get it wrong. It's doubly difficult when you're trying to do it in a pickguard. Right, there you go. So we're going to collapse down the spring. Find the hole in the tab. There we go. It's in. Right, Seymour Duncan wiring is normally black is the hot, red and white go together, green and bare go to ground. So that's exactly what we're going to do. That is soldered. Nothing. Obviously the volume and the tone are working. That's the middle, that's just the middle, that's neck and middle. Okay, it's wired. This obviously has never been off, so whilst it is off, we'll peel off this bit of plastic. Hard to remove when it's sitting under the end of the fretboard. Let's pull that out so that it's out of the way. Right, now comes the tricky bit, getting this puppy back on. It was a bit tight. There's loads and loads of space underneath, which is a refreshing change, definitely. But the old fretboard, I don't really want to remove the neck if I don't have to. So let's try and bring this all the way up. Okay, so I've got the pickguard on. It wasn't easy. The neck, I took the screws out as you saw, but the neck is really firmly in the neck pocket. It's probably being held on by the finish, and if I pull it too tight, it will chip the finish, and I don't want to chip the finish. So I've managed to refit the pickup with the pickguard in place, just some careful negotiation of screws and springs, but it's on, which is great, and the neck's back on. I'm happy about that. Or at least screwed back on. So I'm going to get this pickguard fitted again. I'm just going to put one more in, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that each of the coils are in the right phase. So I'm going to put a new set of strings on. Okay, so tuner. So I'm going to pull these all the way up, these micro tuners. That's more like it, which hopefully that's out of phase. That's definitely out of phase. But at least now I know the order of operation. And I've just got to turn a couple of wires around and it'll be done. We know what the setup's like now. So I'm going to lift over the top of that pickup. There we go. Lay you down neatly. Right, we're there. So, soldering iron. So what I've got to do to change the phase of the pickup is change the black and the green around, and then that will give me a reverse phase, which will then be in phase. Now we should be back where we started. We'll just plug you in. Make sure before we go all to the bother of doing it all up again. Okay. That's in phase. I don't know if you can hear. That's pickup. Sorry. That's humbucker. That's middle coil. Single. If the two pickups are out of phase, i.e. this one is one way round and this is the other way round, when you select both, you get this horrible empty sound. So rather than it going from one to both and they're both sounding thin, it doesn't sound thin, it just sounds a bit more nasally. It's still got all its mids. And then that's humbucker. You can really hear it biting. Middle, neck. And there shouldn't be a big jump in volume, maybe when you get to the humbucker, but that was definitely out of phase. But it isn't anymore, and it wasn't as painful as I thought it might be. Right, so I'm going to get this reassembled. I'm going to give it a bit of a play. I'm going to put the back on, and it's ready to go. So the second of our Adrian Smith Jacksons, only this one's a made in USA, so we'll see about the quality, see if it's different. Immediately I can see that the Floyd Rose is a Floyd Rose, not a Floyd Rose Special, so that's a better quality. They've still got a routed sunken trim cover, so that's nice. The neck feels very similar. But anyway, what we're going to do is change this pickup, this Dimas pickup, for this Seymour Duncan pickup. You might remember on the last one, taking the pickguard off was fun because it sits quite deeply underneath the end of the fingerboard, and the bridge pickup, sorry, the neck pickup makes it difficult to get the pickguard off. So we'll see, and we're also changing these rusty old strings. So first thing to do, get these locking nuts undone, and because the strings are coming off, I'm just going to take them off. So here's the first thing. The tremolo cavity cover is an alloy as opposed to plastic, which the Indonesian one was. The route looks much the same. The block's a bit more of a kind of a chrome look. What we're going to do now is find the right screwdriver and just back out these claw screws a bit. That's it. And then we can slacken off the strings just a touch. That's all the springs off, and hold the fluid. There we go. And then once the strings are loose enough, yeah, that's fine. And lift the whole thing out. And because they're being replaced, snip. They're off. Right, the next thing to do is to see if this pickguard will come off neatly. So, bear with me. Right, so we have pretty much the same issue as we had with the Indonesian one, in that this pickup fouls the pickguard pulling back cleanly, and the easiest way to resolve that was literally just to drop the pickup into the cavity. Just going to undo the screws all the way, let it fall in, and then I'm going to pull the pickguard over the top. And it looks like it's held in with the same screws and springs as before, which went well when we tried to put the thing back together again. There you go, out it come. Okay, so I'm just going to get my protective layer, and already I can see that the inside is shielded with copper foil as opposed to conductive paint. Now the pros and cons of each, I don't think there are any. Copper foil kind of looks nice, hopefully you can see. It looks nice in the cavity. But the conductive paint is a good job and is used by lots of builders of good quality. I'm going to pop this pickup out, as I do not want it flopping around. Oh, that's interesting as well. The pickup's got these little, I've never seen that. It's got these little protruding bits to hold the springs in place. That's going to make it easier when I put it back together again. The pickups are fender. I wonder if I can turn this over easily. Where's it connected? There and there. There you go. Give you a better view. Right, so the routs are deep enough, that's good. Sometimes the Dimasio legs, as I said, are a bit shorter, which causes me a bit of a headache. But these have got really long screws on, so that's fine. The wiring looks very similar to last time. It's a different switch. So previously we had a bit of a super switch. Copper foil on the inside of the pickguard. So there are some differences. I think the pots are a nicer quality. Overall I think it's a nicer guitar. Certainly the pickups are an upgrade from the Indonesian one. But we're changing this one anyway. So we'll back these screws out. I like to cut that one with a little bit end hanging on, because that just makes it so much easier to remember where the new hot's going from the new pickup. But there you go, it's out. I think the wiring does look nicer. I do think that's a better quality. Now, the fact that these are Fender pickups are going to be interesting because is it wired in or out of phase? With this pickup, I'm not going to know until it's put together, so we're going to work that out. I may have to change the wiring around again. Nice clean solder joint. Okay, right, so that should be done. Let's flip you over. Soldering iron off, jack in, and on. So even the volume and the tone roll a bit nicer. I won't know if it's out of phase until it's all assembled, so I'm going to get it reassembled and we'll see. Is that a phase? Right, back where we were, so soldering iron on. It's quite an easy change. And actually it is wired how Seymour Duncans would normally be wired. It's in phase. It was a kind of a 50-50 guess and it didn't work out. But, to say, not a difficult change at all. So while we're here waiting for the soldering iron to warm up, again look, to change the truss rod, the neck's got to come off. And this neck probably comes off easier than the other one. The other one was a real pain, it was just stuck in the pocket. Right, soldering iron's up to speed. Just get a decent pitch, well not a pitch, but just a solid tone from the strings. Back to where we were about 15 minutes ago. No longer out of phase. Okay, right. So we're just going to check the setup. I'm not adjusting it too much. 0.010 of an inch around the 7th or 8th fret. Actually, that's closer, better, if not perfect, than the Indonesian one. I still need those. We're going to have a quick look at the string height. And the string height was maybe a touch high on the bass side. It's about stock. It's about 1.75 mil. It could probably come down a little bit, but not much. And about 125. So it's pretty much stock. So what I'm going to do now is set these pickup heights. I didn't even need to measure it. I can see it's low because it's been off a couple of times. Looking with a string pressed at the last fret for about 2mm. That one's a bit high. Just a smidge. And that's a bit high on this side and a bit low on this side. That's good. Yeah, that's great. Right, so I mean, now we've had this this American USA and the previous one, which was the Indonesian made. Differences, I mean, the obvious differences are the pickups, but equally, I don't know, sound on sound, especially with a bit of distortion, which is largely what this guitar's designed for. Does it make a difference? I think if you want nicer pickups, this one's got nicer pickups, definitely. The Floyd Rose, it's a Floyd Rose special on the Indonesian one. They're not as good quality, they're not made of the same hard steel, so it won't last as long. It will wear, but you know, if you're not playing it every day, it's perfectly, the Floyd Rose specials are perfectly good. They look the same, they work the same, it's just they're not made of the same sturdy material. Inside the pickup, the electrics on the USA one were nicer. It certainly looks more finessed in its wiring, and the components, the volumes, sort of the taper's better on this one than it is on the other one. Whether or not you have alloy, copper shielding or shielding paint, I don't think matters really. The woods are much the same, the neck carve's much the same, the fretwork looks much the same. There isn't a huge amount of difference between the two guitars, I don't think, but as always, you're paying for better components, a better Floyd Rose. If you use a volume part, this one rolls quite nicely. It's the subtle details, but if you're looking for an Iron Maiden, Adrian Smith, Jackson, your Indonesian one's still a good guitar. The big, for me, drawback with both of them is the truss rod adjustment. I think, you know, it would have been better to have gone with a truss rod adjustment that was easier than having to remove the neck every time. Fortunately, this one doesn't need it. The other one could have done with a bit tighter, but I don't think in playing you're going to notice a difference. But if you're after that Adrian Smith look, they're nice guitars, they're Jacksons, so they're good quality builds. There, see what you think. Leave me some notes in the comments. Thanks for watching.